So get this. That's a line from a news report in South Africa. I mean, it's not exactly what you'd expect to hear about business software, is it? It sounds more like a tool for law enforcement than for, accounting. And that surprising idea? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
We're talking about Enterprise Resource Planning, or ERP. And look, I know what you might be thinking. Software, databases, spreadsheets, kind of dry stuff. But I want you to just forget all that for a minute. Because ERP isn't just software. It's this powerful idea with a 40-year history that has been quietly shaping our modern world, from the car you drive to the electricity powering your screen right now. And its story starts in a very specific, very loud place. That's right. Everything we know as ERP today was born right here on the factory floor. Think about it. A place filled with people, machines, raw materials. You have a fundamental need for order, for a plan. Without one, you've just got expensive chaos. And this whole idea of planning just grew and grew over the decades. It started back in the 60s with a really simple but vital question. Do we have enough parts? That was Material Requirements Planning, or MRP. Fast forward to the 80s, and the question got smarter. Now it was, do we have enough parts, and do we have enough time and machine capacity to actually build everything? That was MRP 2. But then the 90s hit, and the ambition just exploded. The question became, can we connect every single part of the business, from finance to sales to the factory floor, into one single intelligent system? That massive dream of total integration, that was the birth of ERP.
And this was a total game changer. Suddenly, a business had a single source of truth. The sales team knew what the factory could actually produce. The finance department could see the true cost of every last bolt. It was a revolution in visibility and control. It basically became the central nervous system for manufacturing. But its journey was just getting started.
So ERP's story didn't end on the assembly line. Not by a long shot. It was about to leave the predictable world of the factory and step into industries that were way more complex and, honestly, a lot more chaotic. To really get the challenge here, think about the difference between building a car and running a river through a dam. A car is made of thousands of distinct, countable parts. That's discrete manufacturing. And ERPs were built for that. It's their native language. But with electricity or oil or gas, you're not counting parts. You're managing a constant, unbroken flow. For a system that was designed to count things, this continuous production was a completely new, really difficult puzzle to solve.
Yeah, the energy industry basically forced ERP to evolve. The sheer scale of the challenges was immense. We're talking massive investments, global markets, ridiculously complex regulations. The old focus on just integrating production wasn't going to cut it. So ERP had to develop a whole new guiding philosophy, moving from just managing how things are made to intensively managing all of a company's resources, people, money, materials, on a massive global scale. And just how far did ERP travel from those factory routes? This quote from a consultant, it says it all. A 20-year non-disclosure agreement just to talk about a project. 20 years. We are definitely not talking about car parts anymore. We're talking about the super secretive worlds of gaming, lotteries, and casinos, all running on the descendants of that original factory software. Okay, so it conquered new industries. What's next? The world, of course. But as ERP started spreading across the globe, it learned a hard lesson. A one-size-fits-all approach just wasn't going to work. First stop, the West. In North America and Europe, ERP projects were treated like building a cathedral. I mean, every single detail had to be blueprinted and perfected before you even started. This super meticulous approach led to some legendary and legendarily expensive multi-year projects. And when I say expensive, I really mean it. After a project went sideways, it cost National Grid USA $585 million just to recover and fix their ERP implementation. That is a staggering number, and it just shows you the sheer scale of these undertakings in the West. But then, ERP arrived in China, and it ran headfirst into a completely different set of challenges. These weren't about technology, they were about philosophy, especially inside those massive state-owned companies. This quote from a retired Chinese executive just cuts right to the heart of it. In that environment, a business decision is almost never just a business decision. It's all tangled up with state policy, with local government relationships, with personal goals.
An ERP system, which kind of assumes that everyone has clear, unified business goals, had to learn to navigate a much, much more complex reality.
And our final stop is Africa, which brings us back to that surprising new purpose we heard about at the very beginning. But it's also where ERP ran into some of the highest failure rates in the entire world. The numbers here are pretty stark. A success rate of only 42%. That means more projects were challenged or just flat out failed than succeeded. You had places like Kenya and South Africa implementing these systems with the noble goal of increasing transparency to fight corruption, but just getting them to work proved to be incredibly difficult. So, why the struggle? Well, it was basically a perfect storm of challenges. You had decisions at the top that didn't line up, a critical shortage of local experts on the ground who could actually run these complex systems, and just immense cultural diversity that made a one-size-fits-all Western-style rollout nearly impossible. This whole global journey proves a huge lesson. Implementing ERP isn't just a technical challenge, it's a cultural one. The software is like a mirror, and it reflects the philosophy of the people who are using it.
Okay, so that brings us to today. The world has changed again, and the forces of globalization and new tech are pushing ERP to completely reinvent itself, once more, for the next 40 years. A perfect example of this is looking at how global Chinese businesses evolve. They start simple, right? Just exporting products. Then they start building local teams and supply chains in other countries. And finally, they reach the stage of true global management, where they're optimizing everything on a worldwide scale. Each one of those steps puts immense pressure on their systems to be more connected, more agile, and a heck of a lot smarter. And this reflects a fundamental shift that's happening in business everywhere. The era of rough, brute force growth, that's kind of ending. As one executive put it, that story is over. The future is all about 精益运营, or lean operations, becoming data-driven and hyper-efficient. And that demands a completely new kind of ERP. So the first pillar of this future is automation. And we're not just talking about robots on an assembly line. This is about intelligent systems handling thousands of invoices, automatically matching purchase orders, tracking shipments without a human touching anything, freeing up your finance and logistics teams to focus on strategy, not spreadsheets. The second pillar is integration, but we're talking on a whole new level. It's no longer just about connecting departments inside your own company. It's about a seamless flow of data across your entire ecosystem. From a customer's click on your website, to a signal to a robot in a warehouse owned by another company, all the way to an automatic shipping notification on their phone. And the final, and maybe the most crucial pillar, is insight. This is the big leap from simply recording what happened yesterday to using all that integrated, automated data to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. It's about using AI to see a supply chain disruption coming because of a weather pattern 1,000 miles away, and then intelligently rerouting materials before a delay ever even happens. And all of this brings us back to the words of that retired executive who said, "In the past, we didn't dare to do it because we didn't understand it. Now we can't do it well because the method is wrong." His reflection really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As we look to the future, is the real challenge the software itself, or is it our own outdated way of thinking?